Well, I blew that one. I'm sorry. It's the loose nut behind the controls this morning. I'm Brad Hildebrand. That's John Combest. This is bjshow.co. John Combest, you can check out his website. He updates all the political happenings in the state of Missouri every single day for the last 22 years. JohnCombest.com, C-O-M-B-E-S-T, JohnCombest.com. Okay, couple things do we finish talking about the heads of all the Ivy League universities? Are we good on that?
I think so. And as long as they didn't say anything interesting, they came out of there. By the way, I would assume, Brad, that if you take any one of those universities, the amount of time, the amount that they spent on media training for every one of them would be north of $100,000 bare minimum.
Really?
Absolutely. So if you hire an agency staffer, they're billed at $300, $400 an hour. So you have 5 of them, 6 of them in a room for a week training these speakers. Like that appearance cost them at least $100,000.
Wow. No
For
kidding.
Sure.
Wow. I'm being in the media business my entire life. I guess I'm somewhat even astounded at that.
Yeah, if you turn on a local ag station, before you hear a marketing director talking about what she thinks of the new seed brought to by an ag company, that young woman or young man will have gone through 30 hours of media training and have done an hour phone call briefing before that interview with their comms people.
Now, what's interesting about that is you're on the opposite side of the coin that I am when you used to work for Monsanto and Bayer. I get people that call me from time to time, PR people that want to have me interview one of their guests, somebody that they want to
Sure.
promote a product or a service or some cause they're doing. And they will ask me, can you send me a list of the questions you're going to ask?
Unbelievable.
And my response is always, no, I cannot, and I will not, because I don't really know what I'm going to ask till I get them on the air.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
they will
Brad,
say,
you have turned down opportunities to interview people
Well,
because the PR people said, well, we want to see your questions in advance, right?
right, and I don't have any questions in advance. I mean, typically when I get some, I
Now,
don't.
a fair thing to do, Brad. I imagine if a PR person had said, hey, what are some of the things that you want to talk about? You'd be happy to tick through a list of things you want to talk about. So as a PR person, that's a better approach to it.
Typically when I call somebody, and I will tell them, look, and a lot of times I'm calling people I've heard on other radio stations, or I've read articles about, on one of the websites or something like that, or someone that I know specifically who's involved in some kind of an organization. Like, for example, I mean, some of the ones we do, which are the ones we promote as far as I've had Salvation Army people on, talking about what they do. And it's pretty straightforward. We get them on the air, and sometimes they say, what are you going to ask me? I said, I don't know. When you turn on the mics, we'll see what happens. Yeah. Now, on my end, that may sound like I'm somewhat unprepared, but I will never forget the fact that if you go back to the old days of the Johnny Carson show, one of the things that Johnny Carson did, he never would meet with the guests ahead of time.
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
And his idea was that, and his motive behind that was, he wanted to have them on the air, and he wanted it to be spontaneous, not like it was scripted. Now, what's interesting is,
exactly.
Along comes Jay Leno, and Jay Leno did just the opposite. Jay Leno, when they did rehearsals, they would go through the guests and stuff like that. And I think that's why some people didn't like Jay Leno, because he came off as sort of phony. I've always liked Jay Leno. I don't really, the people that hated Jay Leno, to me, he was, he's just, and if you know his background, I find these guys who have gone from rags to riches fascinating. I mean, he's a car guy, and everybody knows that he has Jay Leno's Garage. He has a bunch of YouTube channels, and he has this unbelievable car collection. And he told the story about when he came to Los Angeles. And I think he was originally from New York or someplace like that, someplace on the East Coast. He drove there in like an old, like a 54 Buick or something like that, and literally lived in his car. Now, back in the days of those old 54 Buicks, you could probably...
There was room.
Right, almost play pickleball in the backseat. I'm exaggerating, obviously. But one of the interesting things was he searched and found that car when he became successful and bought it and completely restored it. But see, those are the guys that I have a tremendous amount of appreciation for, because of the fact that they've risen from essentially, the lowest levels of humanity, and I shouldn't say humanity, but
and he struggled for years in stand-up and they're just dying to get a break on national television.
Right. It's not like the guy who is the son of the president of what's one of the big companies in St. Louis.
Absolutely.
What's one of the, what would it be? Like it's not
Emerson or Purina. It's not like he's a Danforth.
Right. It's not like
or an Ashcroft.
Right.
Or an
like
Ashcroft.
the son of the guy who is CEO of Stiefel downtown, and he goes to Country Day, and he goes to
Billy Bush.
Right. And it's interesting because I got this article yesterday, which I thought was interesting, and the article was titled, "These Celebrities Wanted Their Children to Live More Independent Lives." And it goes through all these people, like George Lucas, what he's worth, $8.6 billion. He's got 4 kids, talks about what he's doing with his kids. The one that got me was Bill Gates, that says Bill Gates was one point in time the richest man in the world. He's still worth over $100 billion. And it said that he has purposely decided not to spoil his kids, and he's only going to give them $10 million. And I think
that's a hardship.
I think to myself, I wish my dad would have done that with me. Hey son, I'm not going to spoil you, so you only get $10 million. And the way it was written, I thought to myself, okay, so maybe that shows you just how to touch, Bill Gates is, because how many families, when they are essentially dividing up their wealth, their fortune, are going to give someone who's even in 6 figures. I mean, 6 figures. If you knew someone that their parents say, we're going to give Jimmy $100,000, to have his start in life. I mean, most people go like, whoa, $100,000. I mean, I'd be happy with a gift certificate.
That's a ton of money.
I'd be happy with a gift certificate to Wally World or something like that.
Yeah. Or anyway. Freddy's Steak Burgers or Little Debbie's or one of your favorite breakfast meals.
I have a problem that someone took care of me, and I won't embarrass who that is if they're listening right now, but I could not find chocolate Little Debbie's Christmas trees, and someone gave me a box of them yesterday, and I have to admit they were in the car. There's 5 Little Debbie's chocolate Christmas trees in that box when it comes from the factory. There's only one of them left. I ate 4
Brad.
of them. I ate 4 of them when I was driving around yesterday.
As a car guy, Brad, this is an important question.
Yeah.
Do you eat in your car?
All the time.
Wow. See, eating is banned in the Combest car.
See, I probably eat. Let me think. Yesterday, what I did. Yesterday was Whopper Wednesday. I ate the Whopper, the Burger King right there at Highway and 100 in Villa Ridge. That was lunch. And then dinner last night. You know what dinner was last night?
I don't know.
I went to this event. Matter of fact, let's take a couple minutes and talk about this. I went to this event at the, I didn't even know the place existed, which is sort of interesting. I went to this event last night, and I got out of there at about 5:45. It started at 4. I left about 5:45. I went up to and it was down off of Technology Drive in O'Fallon. And I went up to the QT right there at Highway K, just north of 4064. And my dinner was a Big Q, which had my special mix of Diet Pepsi and Mountain Dew. That's like my Mountain Dew Light kind of stuff. Had a little bit of vanilla squirted into there. And a discount donut at QT. After 3 o'clock, all the donuts are 79 cents.
Nice. I didn't know that. I'm not a donut guy, but that sounds like a great deal.
Oh, it was. Okay, so last night I went to this event, and it was interesting because, let me see if I can find the whole story on this. This was an interesting event. I should be more prepared. Here we go again.
And it was on Technology Drive. Was it a fundraiser for MasterCard?
Well, okay, here was.
Or one of the companies out there?
This was the EDC, the Economic Development Council of St. Charles County. Now, here's what's interesting. I know this guy, Scott Drachnick, okay?
Scott Dracula?
Scott Drachnick, D-R-A-C-H.
Oh, okay. I was hoping it was Dracula.
No, Scott Drachnick, D-R-A-C-H-N-I-K. And he's the director of the EDC, which back in the day was known as the Synergy Center. The Synergy Center was a building they built on Mid Rivers Mall Drive, not too far from the community college. If you know where the funeral home is there, Steigers, I believe it is. It's right across the street from Steigers. It's about midway between Highway and Central School Road and Cottleville Parkway, if you know the area. Matter of fact, it's right. If you know where the Old Hickory Country Club is, it's right next to the, when you go into the entrance for the Old Hickory Country Club, the road that goes back to Old Hickory, if you take that road, you can get into the parking lot for the EDC. So this was the EDC, Economic Development Council of St. Charles County, and this was their Happy Celebrations. And it says, we're looking forward to seeing you tomorrow at our annual holiday celebration. Drinks and appetizers will be served as we kick off the holiday season and celebrate a year of partnership and friendship. Now, here's where it was at. It was at the Field to Table Institute. Do you know about this?
No, I don't. I'm guessing it has something to do with agriculture.
Well, yes and no. It does to a certain extent. It's located on the Dardenne Prairie campus of St. Charles Community College. Now, at first, and you say that to most people who live in St. Charles County, they're going, okay, hold on. St. Charles Community College has a campus in Dardenne Prairie? If you go back in history, there was a high school that was built by one of the local developers who ultimately, I think, went bankrupt over this. It was called Barat Academy. Do you remember this?
Oh, yeah. They're not still around?
No. What happened was they built this fancy campus up there on Technology Drive, which essentially is the north service road of Highway 40, about a mile and a half west of K. And it included a nice building, which was the classroom, had athletic field, and this was the field house. Where we were last night was the field house. Unfortunately, that Barat Academy went through bankruptcy. Believe it or not, they got the building foreclosed on them. They moved out to an old church that they rented on Wild Horse Creek Road.
I see that now on Wikipedia, yeah.
Right, and I don't know if they're still there or not.
They paused operations in April of 2023.
So they're no longer in.
Yeah, they closed in June after dwindling to 23 students.
Yeah, it was a good idea that didn't quite turn out quite right. So what they did was the campus then was bought by Lindenwood, and Lindenwood used it as some kind of they have a lot of these satellite campuses, and then it was bought by St. Charles County Community College. So This building, what it does is it was a building where they teach culinary arts. They teach cooking and stuff like that. And it was really cool because they had all these kitchens there, and the food they were serving last night was made in the kitchens, which are classrooms. When you go to this building, when you walk in, it's like a big empty space, and that's for classes and things like that. But yet on each end of the building, there's like a smaller kitchen, then there's a main kitchen on the other end of the building, and these are classrooms for students who want to start a career in food service, culinary arts, whatever you would call it. And it was interesting because I ran into a lot of interesting people last night. One of them, Dan Borgmeyer. Do you know who Dan?
Oh, wow. Running for St. Louis County Executive.
But St. Charles County. But he told me not. He says, no, not true. I asked him because he actually came up to me.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because I know there's an interesting story behind Dan Borgmeyer. Dan Borgmeyer used to run a very successful advertising agency. And one of his big clients was Evelyn Wood's Reading Dynamics. Do you remember this? The speed reading classes?
I remember the name, yeah.
Okay. Here's my running joke. One day when I was at an event with Shelley, Dan was over there. And I said, watch this. And Shelley followed me over. And I said to Dan, Dan, Evelyn Wood's Reading Dynamics, 878. And he just picked up from there and did the commercial off the top of his head. He had the national advertising for Evelyn Wood Dynamics. He recorded the commercials himself. It was his voice all around the country, and he would do, like when he did an advertising campaign, let's say they were in 50 markets, he would record this commercial 50 different times, which
to specialize for every state.
Each market they were in, and he localized it. In Cincinnati, call 210 blah 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 blah. So he still has this commercial embedded in his brain now. And he came up to me him and I, believe it or not, I'm actually doing a couple little things with him with St. Charles City, and he's a great guy. What's interesting about this is sometimes you get these politicians that are just in a position that they, it sort of reminds me of what Josh Hawley said he wouldn't do when he got elected as the Attorney General. He said he wouldn't use the job of his Attorney General as a stepping stone to a higher job, and guess what he did? He did exactly that. But Dan Borgmeyer, and this is my opinion, same thing, I ran into Len Pagano last night, who's the mayor of St. Peter's. These guys are happy that they're in their communities, they're proud of their communities, and they are doing what they can do, what they feel they can do to make their community better and better and better. I love that mindset.
Yeah.
And I will say that's the truth of Mayor Hennessy and O'Fallon. I know him for several years, and he's not like my drinking buddy. None of these guys are. These guys that I essentially have a business relationship with them from the radio station and talking with them at chamber events and various events and things like that. But anyway, Dan was talking to me about something I'm working on with him, with the radio station, which I can't talk about right now. But I asked him point blank. I said, "Are you going to be a county executive candidate?" And he told me no. He says no. He says people keep saying that that's what I want to do, but he says I'm really happy being the mayor. And I said, okay, fine.
So it's Mike Elam.
Mike Elam, and supposedly Mayor Nick Guccione, who's the mayor of Wentzville, and also I can't remember his first name. His last name is Laws, which is interesting. He's with the county police. He's like a captain or colonel or something with the county police, and Laws, just like the guy who used to be the sheriff of Lincoln County over in not Lincoln County, St. Clair County, Illinois. His name was Merle Justice. Sounds
That's beautiful. That sounds like a stage name.
It sounds like something
a lot of people across the river, Brad, as you know, because you're a big fan of Sauget, have stage names. Maybe that was his stage name.
I don't think he was ever at Sauget, to tell you the truth. Although that is in St. Clair County. Maybe he was there. I don't know. Who knows?
He could be.
Well, that's going to do it for our day today. Any last-minute comments?
Not at all. You can go to johncombest.com to see what's new today. Also, for holiday shopping, you can go to Amazon and you can look up my book if you're involved in social media, how to handle social media harassment, trolling, the dark side of things like Facebook, Instagram. Just look for my name, John Combest, on Instagram. The book is called The Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling.
And it's really easy to find him if you go on Amazon. You just put in his name and bang, it takes you right to the book.
That's right.
John Combest, Combest, and you can check out johncombest.com. John, we'll do it again tomorrow. Hard to believe tomorrow's a Friday. What day is this for us for the show? Is this day 13?
Today is day number 12.
12. Tomorrow's day 13.
Tomorrow will be Lucky 13,
Lucky
Friday,
13.
the 13th show.
We'll see you tomorrow. It's 8 o'clock.